welcome back to the Guardians of the Future podcast. I know it's been a while. We did some pre-draft stuff. We haven't done any post-draft stuff. I do owe that. Hopefully I can get Willie Hood to agree to that. We'll see. He's driving a hard bargain. He apparently likes his rest. That's okay. We'll get to that at some point. I've got an interview with Matt Wilkinson I still have to put out there as well, the Tugboat. But today we're going to talk to Jason Prill, who already knows Tugboat. We've talked about Tugboat with Jason Prill before. And now we're going to talk more Hillcats because they were the most interesting team in the first half. They're still an interesting team. They don't have Travis Pizzana. I know it's everyone wants to talk about. But they still have Ralphy Velazquez. They still have Jason Chourio. They still have Jason Prill. So that makes it worth talking about the Hillcats. Anyway, Jason, thanks for taking time. I know you've had a very busy summer so far, so I appreciate you making the time. Let me bump back our recording time even.
Of course, anytime, Justin. I love hopping on the podcast to talk about the Hillcats and plug what we're doing down here and what the team's been doing. So I appreciate you having me on again.
Yeah, you've been a good guest so far. What is going on? You guys are back at home on Tuesday. You got Fredericksburg for 6. What do you guys got coming up this week?
Yeah, it should be an interesting series. Fredericksburg and Lynchburg, they have been a pretty tense rivalry for the last couple of years, really since 2022 when Lynchburg beat the Nationals in the first round of the Carolina League playoffs. And there's always kind of been that in-state tension. They're about 2.5 hours apart from each other. So that always adds to the stakes a little bit. And we always joke around, me and the other broadcasters in the league, is that everybody hates Fredericksburg because they're the one team with money in the Carolina League. And so everybody wants them to lose. And so all eyes in the Carolina League jokingly are on Lynchburg this week as we take on Fredericksburg. But it'll be a fun week. We have our military appreciation game on Friday night. And then on Saturday, we have our first responders appreciation night with a fireworks show. Friday night, we actually have a T-shirt that we're giving away. It's kind of in the NFL military jersey style or shirt style with that light brown color. And then our L logo on the chest looks really cool to the first 500 fans that can get out to the ballpark. And then also, of important note, we're doing a jersey auction this week. We've worn them a couple times. It's our D-Day Memorial jersey with the D-Day Memorial, which is located in Bedford, which for those of you who don't know what that is, it was given to Bedford in honor of, I believe it was June 6th, 1941, I think is the date, somewhere around there. But it was given to Bedford because they had the largest per capita loss in the whole country for people who fought and served on D-Day. And so we have all the names of those who fought and served on the back of the jersey, along with pictures of the monument on the jersey, and all proceeds go right back to the National D-Day Memorial and all the work that they're doing in the community and helping to keep that memory alive. So it'll be really cool. MLBauctions.com. They already have 4 jerseys up there. They'll go on sale on the 31st or go up for bid on the 31st. There's Tommy Hawk, Jason Chourio, Ralphy Velazquez, and Jordan Smith. All 4 of those will be available to bid online. The rest you can bid at our ballpark this week. And before anyone says, well, how do you know that they're going to be there? They've already worn the jerseys. So they've worn them a couple of times. They wore them on July 4th. They've worn them every week since. So I can confirm that even though the game has not happened, they are game-worn jerseys of each of those guys. So no need to worry, no need to fear. They are game-worn jerseys, and it goes toward a great cause.
Yeah, check those out for sure. We'll share the link in the podcast description on YouTube and as well as everywhere else you get podcasts. So, Jason, I appreciate you sharing that. That is really cool. And the game-worn jerseys are always really popular everywhere in the minor leagues. So that's super important. And not a lot of better guys to get jerseys from Ralphy Velazquez and Jason Chourio, 2 guys that were in the Futures game. Saw some really good numbers in the Futures game. I know Chourio had an RBI single, I think, and he scored a run. I think he drove in the only run for the American League Futures game. Guys, Ralphie worked a walk and he had a strikeout. And then I saw some of the Baseball America guys were saying that he had the most home runs in batting practice. And then one of the guys, I don't know how he got his hands on the stats, but one of the guys I follow on Twitter who does go work with stats, he said that Velazquez had the hardest swing, the fastest swing speed of anybody in the game. That's something that obviously MLB is tracking now, and that game was in MLB ballpark. So able to get some of that data. All good stuff. But, Jason, you were down in Texas. You got there in one piece, thankfully, as we were discussing off the air before we got on here. But you got down there in one piece. Seemed like a good experience. Why don't you just kind of share what you saw there and what that experience was like for you and for the 2 Guardian prospects that were representing?
Yeah, no, it was an incredible experience. I'm very grateful to the Hillcats for sending me down there and allowing me to have that opportunity. Really a dream come true to get to cover a game like that and be in that environment with not just the athletes, but also the reporters. And there are national guys all over the place that you just saw walking the warning track while BP was going on. So it was a high priority event for a lot of newspapers and media organizations. And our guys put on a show. Chourio and Velazquez, they were outstanding. Chourio, obviously, in the game. Velazquez, before the game. When I tell you, he put on one of the best shows I've seen in batting practice from anybody at any level. It was incredible. It felt like every swing he took was just pelted into the right field bleacher seating. It was majestic. His father was there watching it, and even he was starstruck by it. Now, granted, that's a father saying that and getting all excited for his son, but legitimately, I read an article from The Athletic that he was the most surprising and breakout hitter in batting practice just because of the pop that he showed, the confidence he was displaying at the plate, at the dish, and talking to some scouts and seeing some of their reactions. He definitely was an eye-popping performer in batting practice. So even though he was 0 for 1 during the game, pre-game, he put out an outstanding performance, an outstanding show for his 3, 4, 5 rounds of BP. Then Chourio during the game, you saw the confidence and you saw the maturity. He's one of the most patient hitters for being 19 years old that you will ever see. And he displayed that in the game. He waited for a pitch that he could handle, didn't try to do too much with it, just took it right back up the middle on an easy ground ball and was able to drive home the only run for the American League, which when you're playing guys in AAA and AA who are in a major league ballpark for maybe the first time, to have a guy in single A go out there and be able to produce productive at bats and even get the start in a position that he had never started for the Hillcats in his 1.5 seasons with us. That to me showed maturity, it showed confidence, and it showed just how good Chourio can be and already is. So overall, it was a really great time. Got to interact with a lot of different people, got to see a lot of cool things, and really got to enjoy the game of baseball in a way that a lot of people never get the opportunity to. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, it sounds like a good experience, and that's a great point too about there's a lot of guys in that game that range in ages, different levels. So for Chourio to be in the box against AAA pitchers, and the same for Ralphy, and for him to come through, really does speak to something. You're right. I remember when that game was in Cleveland in 2019, or yeah, I think it was 2019. I was there, and I was just there as a fan, and it was just so fun to see. I'd always wanted to go to one, and I would love to go to that every year. It seems like a great event. I obviously love prospects, and that was super fun, and I'm sure that was fun to be a part of. Your coverage was good. MLB.com was awesome. It was good to have you there. You're the right person to be there for that because you've seen these guys and you do a great job. But nothing out of surprising for you either. I'm sure those guys have been doing this all year in Lynchburg. Ralphie. I'm sure people are going to ask. Ralphie hasn't played this week. It sounds like he's just been sick, which surprise. He's been traveling across the country the last 2 weeks. That's going to happen. But all is good there. What else have you seen from those two guys throughout the year specifically? And I mean, I want to get to, Angel Genao, who's up in LA County as well, who's playing really well, which you saw earlier this year. And I want to get to Clemmy and other guys we want to get to. But obviously those two guys have been kind of the star of the show down there. How do you feel about them so far this year? Expectations met? I know Ralphie's just playing first now. He's seen, 2 games in the outfield, I want to say. That's been an interesting development as well.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see Ralphie try to make that adjustment to left field. And it's really all because of CJ Kafis and what he's been doing this season that they're like, we got to find a place to put Ralphie because his bat is just so good that they want to move him up as quickly as possible, as quickly as they can. But right now there's nowhere to put him because the first base line went from being probably the weak spot of the minor league organization to being one of the strong suits. And not many organizations in baseball can say that first base is a position that they have multiple prospects in. And so they've been trying Ralphie out in left field, and he's been confident. He's been having fun with it. I overheard, actually, his dad told me that he was saying, they're sleeping on my athleticism. They're sleeping on it. Let me get out there. Let me play. So he was really confident going into left field, and he made a couple of good throws. Obviously, trying to play the angles is a little bit different in left field than it is at first base. So there's still that learning curve from him. And then Chourio, obviously, he's just a natural in center field. He's been outstanding all season defensively at the plate. he's hit some slumps here and there, but he's so patient at the plate that you don't even recognize it because he always finds a way to get on base. Which is really impressive for a guy that's 19 years old. And the one thing about both of them that is really exciting for me is their professionalism. A lot of times when you have a 19-year-old, they can come in, they're not taking it very seriously. They're harder to work with, or they're just there to have fun and they're slacking off. But these guys are the exact opposite. They are hardworking. They are diligent. They are good people. They are friendly. They are kind. They're generous with their time and their energy. And they're enjoying the process. They're not in any rush. They're not trying to speed up the system and get frustrated when things aren't going their way. They take everything in stride. They work through it. They progress through everything, and then they process everything. And they're doing a great job with it. I've been really impressed with just their maturity and their professionalism for being only 19 years old. I mean, they were born, I can't remember if it's the same date or the same week, but they're both 19 years old, and it's very impressive to see them flourishing.
That's right. I do remember that now. When was it Ralphie who turned 19 first, or I figure it was Jason, but I do remember seeing their birthdays pop up, and I was like, oh, they turned 19 like the same week. And 19 is still a good age for that level anymore. So that's really impressive to hear. Not surprised on Ralphie because he got high makeup grades coming into the draft, and Jason's got an older brother who's already in the majors, so that always helps too. He understands what it takes to be a professional. All that helps. Are you surprised? And a lot of this has to do with playing time and guys above them too. Are you surprised either of them are still in Lynchburg at this point?
Not necessarily. I figured when people asked me at the start of the season, I told them they'd probably be in Lynchburg for about 75% of the year, at least through the All-Star break. I thought that was a fair estimation. I was a little bit shocked that Esteban Gonzalez got called up before Jason Chourio did, but I think that's more for the fact that he's more of a corner outfield than a center fielder, and he is a little bit older than Jason Chourio is, so he was able to get that promotion. He was hitting better too, and all around he's fast. He can hit for average. He can hit for power. So I understand why they called Esteban Gonzalez up. That one shocked me a little bit more, and I don't think we'll have them for the entire season. Chourio and Velazquez, I would expect them probably in the next few weeks to get the call up to Lake County. And so just to kind of get their feet wet with that next level for where they'll spend next season. So I'm enjoying the fact that I still get to see them every night now and get a chance to watch them because it really is a treat. It's not often that you have a single A team with as much talent as Lynchburg has had. And quite honestly, this is my third season doing it. I don't think we've had more major league possible talent come through our team and through our ballpark even when other teams come to town, and we get to see it on a regular basis every single night, which has been a treat and a joy to watch.
I would agree. I hope the fans down there have really enjoyed that because this was the best roster in the system coming into the season, and it still is in many ways. I mean, I know you got some guys at the upper levels, and obviously, we talked about Bazanas here now, but like this is still a really strong roster. You still have Ralphy, you still have Chourio, and the pitching has been really interesting all year too. And Humphreys has had good moments. I'm still waiting for some more consistency with him. You had Tugboat at one point. Obviously, that was a great story. I'm sure fans enjoyed him while he was there because the fans have enjoyed the heck out of him in Lake County. No surprise. What about Clemmy? I mean, he hasn't had a start where he hasn't walked somebody yet, so I know those are still issues there. But he has not had any trouble missing bats, and it just seems like the stuff is really electric. And he's also only 19 years old. He just turned 19, I think, earlier this summer, so he's still really young for the level too. But I'm sure fans have really enjoyed watching someone not often at that level. Occasionally you will, but to have a pitcher, a left-handed pitcher at that, who can light up the radar gun the way he does.
Yeah, it has been really impressive. The month of April was very rough for him. He had an ERA well above 10 at that point in time, which you're like, did we move him up too early? Should Cleveland have kept him maybe in Arizona just to work out some of these, excuse me, some of these things that he has in his pitching motion, which is what they've spent countless hours working on with him. Tony Arnold has done an outstanding job reworking it to keep things more under control. He was at the start of the season, he was a bit erratic. He'd be very sharp for 2-3 innings every single night, and then he would just start losing it. His arm slot would change, his motion would kind of get a little wonky. But now, because of the new motion that they've worked through and the new windup, he's much more almost military-esque in his delivery, and it's repetitive, it's consistent, and that's really paved the way for what we've seen over the last few months. And I can't say this with cold hard certainty because I didn't look at the numbers after today's start or Sunday's start, because this is coming out not on Sunday, but his ERA for the months of May, June, and going into his last start of July were all sub 3, and he's 3 years younger than the average age for the Carolina League, which to me, that says a lot about how quickly he grew and how good of a talent he can be. And he can really pump it in there pretty quickly. He gets up to the mid 90s, 96. Every once in a while, you might see a 97 just when he's really feeling loose and really feeling confident. The weather's warm. And so it's just seeing the way he's been able to progress and mature and grow just so quickly. Yes, command's still a bit of a thing that he needs to work on, but I will point out in April, command was a bigger issue. He was missing the zone by a large amount. Pitches were not as enticing. His slider, it was good in the first 2 innings, but then it would get erratic. His fastball would come in high. His slider would go down and away, and it just wouldn't even be enticing for a hitter. Now, and I'm not going to blame the Carolina League umpires, even though I could very much go off on Carolina League umpires. He has had a lot of borderline pitches go against him in his starts, at least at Bank of the James Stadium, from what I've been able to have the pitch tracking on for. And so some of these walks I can't really attribute to him. Obviously, it goes on his stats, it goes in his numbers, but he's been getting pinched, and a lot of pitchers have been feeling that in the Carolina League this year, not just him. So those walk numbers are a little bit higher than maybe where they should be compared to how well he's pitched, because that fastball and slider combo has been nasty over the last 2-3 months.
That's something I always forget to think about when it comes to evaluating players is the umpires. Because again, like everybody can, I can look at the box score, I can look at the stat line and say, Tommy struck out 7 again, but he walked 2 and he made it 4 innings. And you might think those pitches are wild, or you might think they just weren't, like you said, they weren't enticing early on. I always forget, the umpires, we see it in the Midwest League up here too. The umpires, not great. Like Travis Bazzana, his first couple of games up here, he got rung up on some pitches that definitely were Midwest League umpire pitches. So we could have the same conversation about them. And I always forget the umpires are, quote unquote prospects too. They're still learning. It sounds like we need the ABS challenge system at every level. It seems to be working well in AAA. I think they need to go that everywhere else. And it sounds like there might be a chance for that to go elsewhere. So we'll see. But
and to add into to add into the ABS thing, something that's going on in the Carolina League that a lot of people really don't recognize or realize is the Florida League, the Florida State League. They are the only other league besides AAA that has the ABS system. And so that's a part of the single A conglomerate of leagues. And so this season, the umpires have been rotating every 2 months to different leagues in the Carolina League. So they're all staying at the single A level, but they're all going through Florida. That way they can learn the ABS system for the next level and for the future. So because of that process, I would assume it's going to be here sooner rather than later, which as somebody who's had to watch these Carolina League umpires for the last few seasons, I am beyond grateful for, because there has been no consistency, and at least some form of watchdog oversight will make things a lot better and a lot smoother for me. I won't be losing as much hair, and I hopefully won't have any more umpires' moms messaging me on Instagram.
Oh, geez. Wow, that's not a thing you ever think about when you go into broadcasting, right? Like someone's umpire's parent is going to message you over something. I think I've heard of those weird things in like high school, because like high school sports, like parents always ruin high school sports. When I cover high school sports, coaches were great, kids were great. It was always the parents that were a pain in the butt. That's probably something you never thought about going into broadcasting, that you were ever going to hear from an umpire's parent about a call up or something. That's probably something that really surprised you the first time it happened.
It was very surprising, but I get a good laugh out of it now, and it's a running joke amongst the other broadcasters in my league that I have an arch rival in an umpire. I don't know where he's at anymore. He's not in the Carolina League, and I'm not going to
Well,
name
that's good.
names, but I've developed at least one arch rival, and it just so happens to be an umpire.
Wow. All right. Look at that. Who knew broadcasters had enemies? That's a whole other story. You can write a book on that. Someone's got to write a book on that, I think.
I'll put them right next to all the Twitter trolls that take all my screen grabs and my mistakes and throw those online
Oh,
too.
what? Oh, come on. Really?
It's all the opposing teams when I don't get excited for their home runs and their big prospects. With the Dylan Cruz fanatics, when he was in town, I didn't get as excited as the Nationals fans wanted him to. Samuel Basayo last year as well. Orioles fans are the worst when it comes to prospects and making fun of me online. So it's all in good fun, though. I've started jabbing back at them a little bit jokingly and say, well, you're still tuning in. And so I appreciate it, but we like to have fun with it. I don't take it too seriously. And you can't. You really can't take it too seriously. It's all for fun.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, I listen when I tune in, you are one of the broadcasts in that league. Like I'll listen to trying to think whether I guess I shouldn't name names, but I'll listen to the road broadcast too. And I don't really hear them getting super jazzed up about when Ralphy Velazquez hits a home run. But like you said, Dylan Cruz and the other guys, you will get jazzed up about that because it's still a big name and it's still a big play in the game. Just because it didn't work out for the Hillcats, you still get jazzed up about that because it's a big player in the game, even if it didn't go for the Hillcats. So any fans that are not looking at their own team, because trust me, there are broadcasters in your league that I will listen to, and when a Hillcat does something good, they're like, it's monotone. It's Kermit the Frog-esque. There's nothing to it. And
if any fans have any complaints, they can direct them to JASPRILL19 on X, and they can just tweet all their complaints.
He's inviting it now.
I'm making a scrapbook of all the hate comments I get.
It's gonna fuel you through the off season. That's it's gonna make you get better. Just give you a good laugh in the off season. I like that.
Exactly. I need something to make me motivated.
Yeah, you can make a mixtape out of that. You should get a star. I know isn't the mean tweets thing on SNL or other night shows. They get someone to read mean tweets. I think we need to do a podcast with you where people read the mean tweets to you, or you read the mean tweets to you, and you react to it. Maybe in the off season, even though season wrap, we do that.
That would be so much fun. I would love that.
All right, let's plan on that for the end of the year. No mean tweets about Jacob Bresnahan, I hope. I know you haven't seen him yet, but we were talking about, guys who were struggling with control, like Clemmy. Probably not a guy that's going to struggle with a lot of control. I think I'm sure you're eager to see him. It was fun to watch his first start a little bit. I'm excited to hear your call of his first home start this week. But you're going to get a lot of high school pitchers, I think, from this draft. You already got Bresnahan, but what have you heard about him so far? Anything you expect from him? But that's a guy that throws a lot of strikes, and he's doesn't throw as hard as Clemmy, but the stuff's there, and he was one of the best control pitchers in the Arizona Complex League. So that should bode well for quick games for you too, which is always good.
Oh, I love quick games. It makes my life so much easier, and I'm excited to see him pitch. Command seems to be a difference maker in the Carolina League. If you can pitch with command and you can pinpoint place your stuff, you're going to have a lot of success. It's what made Tugboat so good, is he could place his pitches perfectly, and guys just couldn't catch up. It's when you start making those mistakes. You can throw as hard as you want, but if you leave it right down the heart of the plate, doesn't matter if you're in high school or if you were in T-ball. It's right down the middle. You're going to be able to hit it. So it's a guy that can pinpoint, work the corners, work the edges. Now, obviously, we have to go back to the umpires and say, well, maybe the umpires aren't going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I am excited to see him. It's always nice to have another starting pitcher that can perform. A rotation is so important in the Carolina League. And if you look at the numbers across the Carolina League, it's been pitching. That's been the stories. The offensive numbers have been way down across the league, apart from really three teams, Lynchburg, Carolina, and Kannapolis. They're the only three that have had solid seasons at the dish. And everyone else has just been – it's been all pitching. I think every other team is hitting as a whole 225 or below. And those three teams are the only ones that are higher. And so Lynchburg, they had a a tough time kind of early on trying to find their rhythm. Obviously, Clemmy was trying to figure things out in April. Humphreys has had his ups and downs. Gomez has had his ups and downs, and so there's just been not a lot of stability and a lot of fluidity when it comes to the pitching rotation. So I'm excited to see Bresnahan, and hopefully he can kind of solidify some things and help us have some quick games and keep some of those batting averages low when they come into Lynchburg.
Yeah, that's really impressive considering you've lost Tugboat and guys who haven't really been talked about was Rorik Maltrud, who was pretty good. I know I think his final start in Lynchburg was a 6-inning no-hitter, and then he is up in Lake County and he's been really good too. So the fact that the Hillcats have lost 2 starters who thrive on command and, like you said, have had one of the better rotations, despite some of those ups and downs too, says a lot about where things are going. And I'm not surprised either. Like you said, Tony Arnold has been around. I don't want to say forever. I don't want to age the guy too much, but I feel like he's been around forever. Like I remember when he was with Akron, he's been all over the system, and
he's been at every level.
Talks really highly about him. Yeah,
if there's a guy that I trust when it comes to pitching, it's Tony Arnold. He brings the most out of his guys, and the one thing that I really appreciate about him is he fights for him, and so that makes the pitchers much more willing to go out and take risks because they know that he's going to stand up for them in those meetings with the organization. He's going to fight for them in any opportunity he gets. He's very loyal to his guys. He defends them tooth and nail. And so guys just love being able to pitch for him because they know that he's going to have their back. He's going to push them. He's going to work them, but the pitchers know that he has their back.
On the offensive side of things, we talked about Chourio and Ralphy, obviously. The one big name that was coming to the year, I know we talked about this before the season started, was Rafael Ramirez Jr. It's been a tough go for him. I had high hopes. It seems like there's a lot more strikeouts there than I hoped, but can you offer any sign of improvement or what you've seen from him? Because I'm still really high on him. Obviously, like you said, when we were talking early in the year, you said like physically he just looks like he belongs. Like he looks like that guy, and he seems like he wants to work, but he wants to win. And I think you said his English was already pretty good. Mm-hmm. If not already. I mean, I know he had a dad that played in the majors, so he might have had more experience to the English language than some of these guys. But offer any signs of improvement for Ramirez? I know it's been a tough first year for him.
It has been a tough first year for him. And if there's one thing that I think I can point to is his swing has flattened out compared to what it had been. In April, May, and even into June, he had a pretty big uppercut of a swing. He was trying to crush the ball a little bit too much. But just over the last month or so, that swing is leveled out. He's hitting more line drives. Some of them are right at people, but he is hitting more line drives, which is a sign of improvement. He had a couple hits this past week, both Friday night and Saturday night. He picked up a hit, so that was a sign of improvement. And so he's starting to take more pitches too, and be more patient at the plate. Sometimes that's gotten him into trouble as he struck out looking but he's not swinging away at everything, which I think is a sign of improvement. Obviously, there's a lot more that he has to do. And one of the things I do want to point out is I think some of it stems from his struggles defensively. And you hear this when you talk about other sports, where when one aspect of the game isn't going well, everything else kind of falters and everything else kind of lags behind because you put so much mental energy to trying to get that one thing right. And that's been kind of his Achilles heel all season. Is defensively he struggled at times and made a handful of errors, and I think that's wearing on him at the plate, and that's causing a lot of the struggles because he's putting so much energy and focus in his defensive game that he's got nothing really to give in focus for his trips to the plate. And so that's been part of the problem, at least I believe, from my armchair analysis in the booth of what may be contributing to some of those struggles at the dish. I do think it's going to come around. He's still really young. There's no reason to give up hope. I'm not going to name names, but he's not like another big name prospect that came through Lynchburg and struggled for a couple seasons. And so I don't think it's like that at all. I think eventually he's going to turn the corner, and I think eventually he's going to be fine. It's just growing pains at this point.
Yeah, I think we're going to avoid that prospect. I don't even know what we would say at this point for that. I think we can just avoid that conversation. If you don't know who we're talking about, then don't worry about it. You don't need to know about it. It's fine. I don't think there's any reason to go into that. It's a mess. I think we confirmed that earlier in the season when you did the media day with them, because I was joking that on the roster he's listed at 6'1", 159. Ralphy Ramirez is not 6'159". Can we confirm that?
I haven't weighed him, but I can confirm if he is 6 foot 159, I am probably about 5'7", 300. And so he's got a pretty good, solid base. He's built, he's strong, he's very muscular. There's probably it's a healthy amount of fat if there's any fat that's on him, and he looks the part of a ball player. He's got that build. He's just got. I don't know how to describe it. When you're building a player on a video game, you kind of model it around his body type. So he's going to turn the corner. You're going to be comfortable with what you see from him. He's got the look. He's got the physique, and he's got the build.
It's like a commercial right there.
You're gonna like the way you look.
You're gonna like the way you look. Yeah, Ralphy Ramirez. I like that. I'm fine with that. Anybody? We were gonna talk about some draft guys to see you might see in the next soon, maybe the ACL or draft. But anybody else that I haven't really already brought up? I know we talked a lot about a lot of big names. I know Gomez has looked good at times as well. Kyle Scott's had some good games, I feel like, here and there.
He's been a lot better since piggybacking. When he was in the starting role, he struggled a little bit, but as a piggyback, he's been pretty solid. His home run numbers have come down a little bit, at least at the rate that they were being hit out. And so ever since going to a piggyback position, he's been a lot better.
And I know Hawk gets on all the time. He's like an on-base machine, kind of doing what I expected he would do in that league.
He's a cult hero.
He came from in college. Yeah.
He's become a cult hero in Lynchburg. I don't know if you saw what happened on July 4th with the safe out call at home plate for the game time run. At that moment, he became a cult hero. He was all over the Lynchburg Facebook pages. These people probably had never seen a Hillcats game all season. And all of a sudden, everybody knew who Tommy Hawk was. People were talking about him. And so that's why we have his jersey up online for the auction. So he's become a fan favorite. We're actually doing another t-shirt giveaway later in the season with his number on the jersey. Because we know that that's going to bring the crowd out. So I'm actually wearing one for Jason Chourio right now. So Hawk will be number 2 in that collection. So we're really excited about that. But he's been fun to watch. He's a feisty guy. He's energetic. When he can turn and burn, he's quick. I mean, he stole second, third, and home in one inning. And it was a straight steal of home. That was while I was down at the Futures game. I think it was the Saturday night game, the second to last game before the All-Star break. So he's had some really good moments, some really high moments. And he plays like his pants are on fire, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, and great defender too. I've seen a lot of great defensive plays out there from him as well. Anybody else you want to bring up? Anybody else I'm missing? I mean, Antunes has been interesting. I know Ben-Hameen just had a really fantastic week as well. And I feel like Harlow and Jay-Zach have both had their moments. Is anybody that really worth spending a little bit more time on before we talk about maybe who you might see in the next few weeks or in the next year?
Yeah, I just want to plug Benjamin a little bit more, simply for the fact that he has worked hard. He was not getting everyday reps at the start of the season, and he was playing backup first base behind Velazquez, which is a position he had never played before. And so you want to talk about a guy who was trying to adjust defensively and then struggling at the plate because of it. That was him. He was playing 2, maybe 3 times a week if he was lucky, and only one of those would be at a natural position for him, if that. And so he took his lumps and bumps at the start of the season, and he was batting right around 200. I think even going into the middle of June. And then when Angel Genao got called up, he has been on a tear. I don't know his numbers over the last 30 games, but he's gone from low 200s to he's in the mid 270s now, just in the span of a month and a half. And so he has been outstanding to watch. He's been the second best clutch hitter on the Hillcats behind Jason Chourio. So when there's runners in scoring position, he comes through about 35% of the time, which has been a really good number for him. He strikes out a lot, which is kind of the one knocking him at the plate, but he's really turned the corner, and we're starting to see a pickup of where he left off last season, because he was hitting pretty well toward the end of last year as well. He even had the walk-off base hit to end the season, and he's starting to find his groove again this season. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping that with any of whatever call-ups we hear from the next few weeks from Arizona or the draft, I'm hoping that he can continue to keep his place in the lineup.
Yeah, and not a guy who's built like a first baseman. That's also hard too. Like we're talking about Ramirez and his build, but Benjamin is definitely not built like a first baseman. So that had to be hard to make those moves over there too. And I was expecting him to hit better based on what he did last year. So the fact that he started off the year, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad to see he's hitting better too. And I'm still hopeful for Wilfredo too. I know he's 22. He's a little bit older. So we'll see. You brought up now, and I forgot to get to this before we get to the guys who might be in Lynchburg here soon. But I've been really impressed with him now. I can't believe a guy who swings as hard as he does not strike out more. I think I would love to see him be a little more patient. But it's not that bad. Like he gets to a lot of like deeper counts, and he does a lot of swinging on 3-2. I feel like there's not a lot of walks, but he will get to like 2-2, 3-2. And I've noticed like, man, he can take off as the best of them. Like he'll hit a double into the gap, and you can just see it's easy plus speed. Like doesn't take him much effort to run. Plenty of arm for the left side of the infield. All sound about right. Are you surprised that he was able to go to high A and have the same amount of success right away?
I was surprised they kept him in Lynchburg for as long as they did. If there's one thing that I'm surprised about, and I consider it one of the biggest blessings or joys of my career to have been able to call him for almost 3 seasons. I guess 2 full seasons when you count his little cup of coffee at the end of 2022, all of last year, and then first half of this season. I was blessed to be able to get to watch him every single night. And I actually told Bob Nightingale, I was interacting with him at the Futures game. He's the USA Today columnist. He was asking me any names that I should be keeping my eye on. And I said, Angel Genao. If there's one player that I am confident can make it, it's Angel Genao. Just the swing is pure. It's a little bit long, which you alluded to, which you're kind of surprised maybe he's not striking out as much, but he's not a natural long swinger. He actually has elongated it just this past offseason. So he was swinging nice and tight. And I was talking to a scout at the beginning of the season, and he was like, I'm scared. He changed up his swing to the point where I really don't want to take a risk on him if I were to advise a team. And then he just went out and tore whatever team we were facing that week apart. And I think even the scout had to say, well, I guess maybe I was wrong about my analysis. So he's a natural short swing kind of guy, nice, quick through the zone, but he's elongated it to get more of that power, more of that pop, more of that gap power, which is something that was missing from his game even in 2023. So I'm very excited for Angel Genao. I think he's a stud in the making. I think he's going to be in the majors at some point in time. Obviously, I know that there's a middle infield blockage in Cleveland, so I don't know if it will be with us, but I expect him to get there at some point. And he's just got a tremendous story. He grew up in a home without a roof, and he grew up playing Little League Baseball with Abel Brito, actually, and he was in the Little League World Series. So we've talked about Tugboat and Little League World Series. Angel Genao was in the Little League World Series at one point in time, too. And so he's a guy that plays with so much joy and so much passion. And I'm going to say this name, and I had to preface this with Bob Nightingale, too. When I watch him play, he reminds me of Francisco Lindor. Just the joy, the passion, the energy. And I'm not going to compare skill sets. I'm talking about the way he plays the game of baseball. He has so much fun out there. You never see him get down, get beat, get burned. He's always got a smile on his face. He's always enjoying himself. And to me, that's part of the makeup of a good ball player, is somebody who can carry himself with that kind of motivation, that kind of energy. He's not going to take nothing is going to knock him off kilter. He's just going out there having fun, and that's the most dangerous player to face, somebody who's not afraid to fail. And so Angel Genao, he's got my eyes are going to be on him the rest of his trek up to the majors, and even when he becomes a professional major leaguer, I think he's got what it takes.
That's quite a story. Wow, the roof without a home is obviously or home without a roof is very sad, and the fact that he's able to play with so much joy is really exciting too. I think you're right. I think if the Guardians are going to make a deal, I think someone's going to want Angel Genao, and I can't say I blame them, but he's been a lot of fun to watch. I'm going to be in Lake County this week, and I'm hoping now I want to get a chance to talk to him before he heads somewhere. Although it's not till Tuesday, so I don't know. By the time I get to the ballpark Tuesday, he may be a member of another organization. So, yikes! I guess we'll find out Another guy I'm kind of curious about to see where he ends up. I think he's been the breakout prospect among pitchers this year. Is Austin Peterson. You saw him a lot last year in Lynchburg, and I admit coming into the year I wasn't super high on him because he was a guy who missed a lot of bats in college, and Cleveland loves to take guys who strike out guys in college, but also don't walk guys, and that's always been his MO, and he's doing it this year. He didn't strike a lot of guys out last year in the Carolina League, so when he came out this year in Lake County and was just striking everybody out, and I don't say everybody, but he's striking out guys at a better rate than he was a year ago, and he's doing it in Double A. Was it the umpires last year in the Carolina League? Why he wasn't? But what do you think has been what was missing last year? And do you know? I mean, if you've seen anything this year about what's been different for him, maybe.
Well, what I can tell you is last year he was a pitch to contact kind of guy. He wasn't missing bats very often, and he'd give up quite a lot of hits, but somehow every single time it felt like he was working out of a jam. And one of the things that impressed me the most with Peterson last season was just how deep he was able to go into ball games and keep his form. A lot of guys, we talked about Clemmy, after the first couple innings, he would lose his form and his motion, and he would kind of throw it all over the place. Peterson, he would go 7-8 innings and be fine, and he would only be at 92 pitches. I think there was a game that he went a full 8 innings and he was right at 90 pitches or somewhere around there. So he could have gone a complete game, 9 innings, which that never happens at any level anymore, let alone the Carolina League, because they typically cut you off in the 6th inning at max. And so I was really impressed with that. Obviously now I think you're seeing him return more to some of that collegiate stuff. And it may just be the approach that hitters are taking against him this year. They saw how much contact they could generate off of him in single A. So maybe the scouting reports are saying, hey, swing away. And he's just doing a better job of painting the edges and missing bats. But he's a tall arm and he's a good guy. He kind of looks a little awkward at times, just the way he kind of moves and just how tall he is. But he's a good pitcher. He's a good guy. And I'm excited to see his progression. And I'm glad to see that he's been a breakout pitcher. Him and Parker Messick together up in Double A right now is really cool to see because they were just in Lynchburg last season. And they're both pitching really well. So I'm excited to see how they're going to progress. And the pitching factory may not have the names up at Triple A right now, but there are some names down at the lower levels that pitching factory is not going to stay quiet for long.
Yeah, Ryan Webb, Messick, Tugboat, Peterson, Clemmy, Bresnahan, all really moving along at a good pace. Here's one. I'm not a big player comp guy. I don't, because it's not fair to the players and guys are different. But here, the thing with Peterson I've noticed the most, he's got good extension and gets a lot of ground balls. He said he pitches the contact. He reminds me a little of 2 different guys. One, there's some Charlie Nagy to the game. I know as a growing up a Cleveland fan, you would appreciate both of these. I see some Charles Nagy there, I think, who also might have gone to UConn. I know he's a Northeastern guy from that area, so I'm not sure if it was UConn. And then Cliff Lee. Cliff Lee was a guy who had great control. Didn't really strike a lot of guys out. He could strike guys out, but it wasn't like he was a big strikeout guy. But that seems to be what Peterson does. Like, he can strike some guys out, but he keeps the ball on the ground. He keeps missing barrels and doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. So that's kind of the guy I kind of see him developing into so far. Does it feel fair? Do you think I'm off base there?
No, I think that's fair. And once again, this is my armchair analysis. I think that style of pitching is going to be in high demand over the next few years. I know right now it's all about velocity. Can we throw it past guys? Can we make it 100, 102? How hard can we throw the baseball? I really think that there's going to be a shift because you see a shift in the batting approach. If a guy makes contact right now, it's gone. It's hard contact. But if you can find a guy who can paint the edges and paint the corners, guys aren't used to 92 to 95 anymore. Not even 96. They're sitting and expecting 90, 96 to 98 for a lot of guys. So if you can have a guy that can work the zone and can just get soft contact, not Might not be swing and miss stuff. I really think because of the way hitting coaches are teaching approaches at the plate now, and swing for power. You want the highest exit velo. But you can have a guy that can paint the corners, work the edges, and get guys to look kind of silly at the dish. I think that's going to be in high demand. I think Cleveland has a couple of those guys in their system that are going to be able to generate soft contact. They may not blow guys away, and the velocity numbers may not be where you want them to right now, but they can pitch. They are pitchers. They can get guys out. And at the end of the day, I think that's what's most important. That's what you want in a pitcher, a guy who can get guys out, whether he throws 100 or 75. You want a guy who can get somebody out. And if they can do it at 92 to 95 and work the corners with good command, I think that's going to be very valuable as the pitching starts to readjust to some of the big swings that you're seeing from guys today.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Plus, I think a guy like Peterson, too, can, he's like, 91, 94, and he can, the fact that he's so lanky and he has extension, that can play up, too. So you don't need to throw 97 if you throw 94, and it looks like 97 to these guys. So that helps for a guy like him. All right. The ACL is finally over. The draft guys are going to be interesting. I think everybody wants to know if Welvin Francisco's coming your way. I don't know if we can say that or not, but I know there's got to be some guys. I know you keep an eye on the roster. I know you keep an eye on what guys are doing there to see if you'll get sent anybody. But I'd imagine we'll see some ACL guys head your way now that the season's over, just to get their feet wet as the season ends in Lynchburg.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on specific names or anything like that. But I would be very shocked if we didn't see some ACL guys even this coming week in Lynchburg. I think that it's coming down the pipeline, and you're going to see some of the guys, especially maybe some of the draft picks from recent years who haven't been able to make it out from the ACL. I think they're going to be the first to come before this year's round of draft picks come. So you're going to see some of those names, and then some of the high producers make their way, get a cup of coffee in Lynchburg before the end of the season. So not naming specific names because I know that can only get me in trouble if I do, but you're going to see a handful, and I think even this week you could see a few, especially now that the draft guys have signed. I think now you're going to see a handful of some of those of the ACL guys make their way up.
Any of those guys from the ACL, I don't know how hot it is in Lynchburg these days. It was a hot one in Ohio today, by the way, but I don't know how hot it is down there for you guys, but I can imagine anybody from the ACL who gets to Lynchburg, they're going to be like, this is paradise. This is great. It's so cold here, because Arizona is like 110 and it's like noon. They're playing noon games in 100 heat already.
Well, we'll see how they do with the humidity and the bugs that seem to cover Bank of the James Stadium. You step outside my press box and you're just dripping in sweat. We had a game earlier in the month of July where the AC in the press box went out, and I was just dripping in sweat from head to toe. Like my hair was just all matted down like this because it was all wet. Like it was bad. They got to adjust to the humidity. That's something that they haven't had to deal with too much in Arizona. So we'll see how they do with that. It'll be a little bit cooler on the number side, but that humidity, it does some damage if they're not ready for it.
That's true. Got to stay. Well, they're already hydrated. They got to play in Arizona heat. They're hydrated. So I think they'll be able to handle the heat down in Lynchburg as well. The draft is going to be interesting. I think, next year we're going to see most of these high school pitchers they took are going to wind up staying in the Arizona League early on. But, you'll get your first look, I think, at all these high school kids. I can't imagine most of them are not going to come through Lynchburg first just because of their age and their experience. But, and I wouldn't be surprised if you guys wind up with Jacob Cozart, because catching's a spot that might be open there, or even Bennett Thompson might have a chance. One of those two guys is going to be with you. I'm almost guaranteeing that, because they can't send both to Lake County and there's no ACL to play in. So that helps you guys out quite a bit. I'm just kind of looking up and down the list. I would hope that you guys are going to see Rafe Schlesinger, who pitched at Miami. He was an ACC kid, so maybe that's a great story too. He's got a kind of a tick. I forgot. He's got some sort of tick, I guess, and I really shouldn't be explaining it on here because I don't know enough about it for me to sit here and say anything about it. But he's had to overcome some challenges in life, and I've seen some podcasts with him. He seems like a fantastic kid. Not no one's going to see Aiden Major because he's having Tommy John, but there's a number of college arms too that I think might get your way in addition to those catchers. The catchers, though, I'm really interested to see if they wind up in the Lynchburg roster because they're both very interesting guys. And Cozart, being from North Carolina State, being in your area, should be kind of popular if he winds up there. Although Bennett Thompson's from the other side of the country, so I don't know how that's going to work out for him.
Yeah, I think I don't think you're going to see any of the high school pitchers, like you said, which leads me to believe that we're going to have the most exciting pitching rotation in all of the Carolina League next season.
Oh yeah,
and I am already pumped for it because they took, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 high school arms within the top 100. Is that correct?
Yeah, Dowdy, Oki, and Mobley. I mean, I was thinking Mobley till the 10th round, but those guys were all like top 100 guys. Sullivan wasn't far from there, so they've got 4 guys in like the top 120, and then they also took a kid from Hawaii. So a lot of high school arms that should be coming your way in the next year.
Yeah, and it's going to be a sloppy April. I'm already prepping myself for a long month of April, but odds are a couple of them are really going to turn the corner. I'm excited to see those guys when they get into Lynchburg next season. But no, you're right. I think catching is a spot that the Hillcats really need. I don't think we have any solutions there for the organization right now. I love Mejias. I love Lopez. I think they're great guys, but they haven't taken a step like I hope they would this season from where they were last year. And I think the organization sees that, which is why they drafted some catchers. And so I expect to see Cozart. I would assume he's probably coming to Lynchburg first. And so I would expect to see him at some point in time, and maybe some relief pitching because the Hillcats bullpen is depleted. So we could use some arms that can just work some short 2-inning stints, 3-inning stints. You don't need to piggyback a guy, just somebody who can come in and carry you to the very end of a ball game. So I'm hoping we can get a couple of those guys. Rafe would be a nice addition. Obviously, Cleveland seems to like Miami and where they pick guys out of. I mean, you look at CJ Kafis, and he started the season or started his professional career with Lynchburg last year. So I would be more than willing to take another hurricane in Lynchburg.
Yeah, I would imagine you'll see him there at some point. I should have asked you too if you're surprised by what Kafis is doing this year because he's another one like you were talking about before about how Cleveland's got more first base solutions than they had the last couple of years, and I put Kafis kind of on the same list as Genao. I'm like, is he going to end the week in Cleveland? Like, I know there's been scouts sniffing around Akron the last couple of days too. So I don't know. He's another one that I'm thinking might have a future home somewhere else. And I know some fans have really taken to him and would not be thrilled with that. But he's had quite a good year. I'm sure you're not surprised after what you saw last year.
Yeah, there's often times of transition. I mean, you saw it with a guy like Alex Mooney going from college to pro ball, where it takes a little time to get your feet wet, get acclimated to the level. He struggled in Lynchburg last season at the plate. Kafis did not. He was able to jump right in and really contribute. He had a couple clutch hits late in ball games, which I think one of them is actually on my pregame intro thing. The word slipping my mind. That's great for a broadcaster to say. But
your highlight reel.
Yeah, exactly. My highlight reel before the game. And so I'm really not surprised, maybe to the level at which he's doing it. And I didn't see this much power from him or anticipate seeing this much pop. Now, granted, Lynchburg is not really a hitter-friendly ballpark. It hasn't been that way in a long time. So I can't give you an accurate read on that, but I did not see this kind of power coming from him. And he has been both power and contact. It's both been there, which I'm excited to see. I think he could be a really good first baseman. He's got the body makeup for it. And I didn't get to see him very long, but I was impressed with him in the short stint that I had him down in Lynchburg. So I'm excited for what he's doing in Akron and what he's got, whether it's for us or come Tuesday for somebody else. I think he's going to have a good career in front of him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it depends how they feel about, Manzardo and there's Ralphy. There are very few guys on my list that I feel like Cleveland shouldn't trade because I've grown over the years. I remember when the Andrew Miller trade happened and I was like, I liked Andrew Miller. I knew it was a good trade, but I was so enamored with Clint Frazier and I'm like, he's going to be an all-star. I can't believe they made that deal. And it turned out fine. All the Guardians trades they've made over the years for when they were in contention during that window, all turned out fine. None of those guys really burned them, in terms of who they gave away or traded for other talent, I should say. And
I'll
now
keep
I'm
my
like,
mouth
there's
shut on
not.
one name that popped into my mind.
I'm sure I can. I bet you I can match you on the air there or off the air. We can talk about that one. But there's one trade, but I think we also know what went into that trade a little bit as well. But there's not a lot of guys on my list where I'm like, don't trade this guy. Don't trade this guy. I think Ralphie might be the only one. Like Chase DeLauder is one, obviously, but I'm also concerned about his health long term. I think Ralphie might be the only guy on my list. I'm like, if you trade him, you've got to get somebody really good back, like really like a long term piece, not just a rental. Everybody else, I know we spoke highly of Genao, and I'm like, I'm not going to be upset if they trade him just because they got the infielders, but also like, you got to trade up something good to get something good. I think Ralphie is maybe the only guy on my list from the position player side where I have really long term, like if you don't get like a hitter you've got for 4 or 5 years, I wouldn't trade him, and I don't think they will. But that's why I have an inkling like guys like Kafis or Manzardo or Genao might be on the move, but I can't see Ralph. I just can't.
And I will be selfish and say I don't think they'll trade Chourio either. I think you got to hold on to that guy. I think obviously he's got to get the power. He's not there. Just like he doesn't have the power of Jackson, his brother, but I mean, he's a 4 out of 5 tools ain't bad. And he's got all the other things down pretty well. He's got a good eye at the plate, which for 19 years old. And you want to talk about a guy who's got major league makeup. He looks the part. I haven't seen them side by side, but I would argue that he probably has a better build for the major league level than Jackson Chourio does, just for durability's sake. I think he's well built. He's muscular. He's tall. He's not lanky, but he's tall. And for center field, it's played really well, and he's fast. He's sneaky fast. You don't see it right out the break just because of how tall he is and how muscular he is. But he's fast. He currently leads the active team in stolen bases, I think, with 36, which is now one behind where Esteban Gonzalez was when he was called up last week. So I wouldn't trade him either if I was Cleveland. He would be on my untouchable list, but that's just me. And I've been a Chourio fan since he came into Lynchburg last season, even before then when he was with Arizona and the Complex League. So if he can be anything close to what his brother was, I wouldn't trade him. Especially with the outfield help Cleveland has right now.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And how many first basemen can you try to move to the outfield or whatever? Or how many infielders can you try to move to the outfield and make it work? Exactly. So I think you've got a good point for. I think the only thing you can do it for is if you're getting a long-term solution. But I don't think that guy exists on that market. All right, Jason, before we get out of here, can you plug the jersey giveaway and just some stuff real quick here at the end for people who are maybe tuning out at the end and might want to hit that link?
Yeah, absolutely. Our jersey giveaway, once again, it's for the National D-Day Memorial located in Bedford, Virginia. And it's in Bedford. It's the National Memorial. It's not just a local memorial. It's because Bedford had the highest per capita loss of any city in America on D-Day. I believe the number was 20 out of 36 that were deployed on D-Day that they lost. And so that's above 50%. And I think they only sent 40 total. I might be getting that second number wrong. It might be 46. But either way, it was 20. I'm confident in that. But that's still a very high percentile of people that they sent over. And Bedford's a small town. It's smaller. I grew up in Brunswick, Ohio. It's smaller than Brunswick, Ohio. It's smaller than a lot of these. It's a small town. I mean, this would be like Lodi, Ohio, probably, if I were to compare it in size. So you're not looking at a big town. It took a significant toll and damage on the community. And so they put the D-Day Memorial there. We're raising money for it so they can continue to bring awareness to D-Day and what happened during World War II and just the heroic bravery of these men among others, all the other names, all those who sacrificed their lives in what is the greatest act of valor in maybe not just American history, but maybe even world history from a military standpoint. So it's a really cool opportunity that we have to raise money for them. The jerseys are awesome. They're all over our Instagram and our social media channels at LYN Hillcats if you want to take a look at them. And we talked a lot about Tony Arnold today. They're the one specialty jersey that Tony Arnold agreed to do a photo shoot for. And so his picture is on our website. He loves the jerseys. And so if he loves the jerseys, you got to go out and get yourself one too. You can bet on Tommy Hawks, Ralphy Velazquez, Jason Chourio, and Jordan Smith online. And if you want to make a long weekend and come on down to Lynchburg, you can bid on the rest of them here inside the ballpark at Bank of the James Stadium. But to bid online, it's milbauctions.com, and all proceeds go toward the National D-Day Memorial.
And we'll check that link down in the bio of this episode, wherever you're listening, and on YouTube as well. And I'll throw it out on Twitter as well when I get the chance. But Jason, appreciate you. The hardest working man in broadcasting. Not only are you broadcasting baseball all summer long, you're going to school and you're on here, your eyes and ears from Lynchburg. And we definitely appreciate you. And I appreciate you making the time to come on here. Always have a fun time. And I'm definitely going to talk about who that prospect was when we finish recording.
Oh, for sure. It's always fun, Justin. I appreciate it. And anytime you want me to hop on, I'm always glad to do it. So just let me know whenever you want the update from down south, and I'll be glad to give it to you.
Yeah, we'll catch you again as the season ends. And who knows, maybe we'll be talking about some playoffs and some other draft guys. We'll see what happens. You never know. So stick around for that at the end. Follow Jason on Twitter at JASPRILL19. Hillcats broadcast doing great. Hillcats social doing great this year, bringing you all kinds of highlights. It's been a great experience this year. Great team. I don't expect that to change the last month, and I don't expect it to change next year. So keep it going, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll get back to you with draft stuff next week. Hopefully get back to you with my tugboat interview at some point. And who knows, maybe some Travis Bazzana audio. I can't guarantee, but I will give it a try. The Guardians are doing their best to control that hype already. I can tell you it's going to be an interesting media scenario. So thanks again, Jason, and we'll catch everybody next time.